Good evening, and welcome to the Cross Lake City Council meeting of Monday, October 9th, 2017. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we do have a few additions to the agenda tonight, which you have all received. So I'd like a motion on the floor to accept those and approve those additions.
I will make that motion.
First, Dave Nevin, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on to the consent calendar, it doesn't get any shorter, keeps getting longer, so you can go online and take a look at all the information on there. I think one thing you'll notice that everything is increasing a little bit. We have more permits from planning and zoning. If you look at our police report, they're a little bit more active. If you look at our fire report, they're a little bit more active. So definitely we are a growing community. I'd like a motion on the floor.
I got a couple questions on it, Patty.
Okay.
On 13, engineering services for the 2018 road improvements was awarded to WSN, I believe.
If you want, you should pull it and then approve the consent and then.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we are going to remove number 13, Dave?
13, 14, 17, and a question on 24. Should be quick.
Okay, so we will move those out into old business. And so now do I have an approval, or I'm sorry, a motion on the floor to accept the consent calendar as submitted?
I'll make that motion.
Dave Schrupp first, and a second?
I'll second.
Brad Nelson, second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. We have a busy evening ahead of us, and of course with the Viking Bears game. We're going to move through this with efficiency and effectiveness. However, John Henke has requested that nobody say anything about the score until he has left the building tonight. The first one under critical issues.
Excuse me, Patty. Could we address the pulled items?
Oh, you want to? Okay, sure. So, Dave, do you want to go ahead and talk about the items
Oh,
that you...
okay. 13, engineering services for the 2018 road projects was awarded to WSN for $180,000. Is that right? Did I read that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, and then my question, so the engineering is going back to WSN next year? I mean, I guess that's my question.
Mike, do you want
Is
to...
that what it was?
Yeah, that's what we voted on at the last council meeting.
I don't recall that. Okay,
Okay.
that's all.
Anything else?
14, construction material testing. We just approved $8,240 to go for concrete and soil testing for the Dream Island Bridge, and that isn't part of the engineering?
That's not part of the engineering?
Yeah, I mean, is that addition to the contract?
That's part of the entire project, and there were two bids on that.
But
If I
why,
could have Dave
Dave,
Reese
do you
address
wanna-
that.
why wasn't that approved when we approved the whole thing? I mean, why, is this an addition to what we approved for the bridge? That's my question.
No.
It's in addition to WSN's engineering of the project. It's material testing that's required by the state for documentation.
So that's in addition to the price
Right.
that we
And
approved?
it was included in the bridge bond funding.
Okay, but it's an additional to what we approved for the bridge. The bond, I mean, I'm a little confused on
It's
it.
part of the overall engineering and testing budget that was put together for the bridge bond.
Okay, so
Dave?
we've already approved it?
Yeah.
This is an old document that I dug up, and there was a line item that said testing in there that was part of their estimate.
Okay, so now we're just
But that was
approving?
$7,500. This one's a little more. Is it 80? What is it?
8240.
8240,
Yeah.
so.
There were two quotes that were solicited, and this was the lesser expensive of the two.
Okay, as long as it was part of the original agreement.
Okay, good.
17 is another quickie, the property owner's notification of the surveying the county's going to do for the roads. When that's in our packet, does the property owner see that?
Yes, they, I believe all property, it said in our letter that all property owners will be sent a letter talking about the,
Okay.
yeah.
That's all, I mean,
Yeah.
as long as we got
Yep.
it, they should get it. 24 is a sound system for $3,900. Where did that go?
Which sound
That's
system?
24?
Which sound system are you talking about?
I don't know.
That,
Mine.
are you talking about the one
Well,
that we're going to,
I don't think it's for the
John?
library.
that John is going to bring forth tonight under Park and Rec?
That was previously put on the bills for approval, and then it got changed, so that will be discussed later in the meeting.
So this one that's on the pay the bills
I believe
list.
it's going to be changed. John, is that correct?
But this is the sound system at the Park and Rec. I mean, that you were talking about. Okay, that's all.
Okay,
Didn't know
great.
what it was.
Thank you. Where did we end up on this? So are we done with consent calendar and addressing all the issues?
Yep.
Okay, go, perfect. Moving ahead, critical issues. Cindy Mugato from the Chamber, Cross Lake Chamber of Commerce.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. Cindy Mugato with the Chamber of Commerce. And we are already looking at 4th of July next year. It actually falls on a Wednesday. So there's a question of when the fireworks should be. Should they be on the Saturday prior or the Saturday following? I posed that question to the Cross Lake Chambers Advisory Board, and they would like to recommend to you that we make the date be Saturday, July the 7th. It's out of line a bit with our traditional custom in which the fireworks traditionally take place the Saturday prior to the 4th, which would be Saturday, June 30th. But the advisory board cited the following reasons for their recommendation. Number one is it's a July date, so the 4th of July should be in July. Number two, the 7th is actually closer to the holiday, 3 days away versus four days away for the June 30th. And then they felt that it was most likely that the weekend residents would be here. They would come in on Tuesday night, stay for the Wednesday holiday, and stay through the following weekend. So they're just presuming that there would be more attendees in Cross Lake to view those fireworks. Contradictory arguments would advise that the display take place on the 30th, just to expand that high peak, thinking if people came in on the 30th, then they'd stay the whole week prior. But the advisory board was pretty firm in their recommendation that they wanted the display to be on Saturday, July the 7th. So since you all do 99% of the funding for that event, I would like your blessing to have the fireworks on July the 7th, 2018.
Do we want to have that as a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Motion on the floor to have July 7th as the date for the fireworks. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Dave Schrupp, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. I've actually taken lots of calls on that issue to know when that is, so people are already finding an interest in planning their vacations around that. The second thing, it wasn't on the list here, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Ted Strand and the Public Works Department for helping with Cross Lake Days. Last weekend, it was a huge success. The Public Works does a fantastic job of preparing the town. They sweep the streets, they help set up the cones, they let us use the generator in the town square for the chili cook-off and the car show. So thank you, Ted and crew, for that. As I said, it was a success. We had we had 32 businesses, which is a record number, doing chili and the chili cook-off. There was more than 50 chamber member businesses that participated, offering chili bead specials, hosting events, financial sponsorships, so that was terrific. We have a Cross Lake app So if you go to your app store on either your Android or your iPhone device, go to your app store or your Play Store, I think is what it's called for Androids, and download the Crosslake app. It's an easy way to find your way around town. It lists the businesses, it lists the events, and we actually had 142 people use that method to vote for their favorite chili. So we will be integrating it into the events that we have. So that's it. Thank you.
Well, if we wanted to, if you wanted to do something, you know, we could always have a big event on the weekend before the fireworks. Then we could have people stay all week.
Yeah.
Work on that. You can leave that committee, Penny.
Thank you, Cindy. Next on under critical issues is Christine Davis, and she'll give us an update on the new Crosslake Community School. And please state your name and address.
Christine Davis, 13408 Rush Harbor Drive, Cross Lake, Minnesota, 56442. Think about that a minute. Well, a couple things with the school, as you can see, as you drive by, things are happening in this town, so thank you, City of Cross Lake. Thank you so much for all the parts and pieces you do. We're on your agenda and we're in your packet this week with the resolution calling for the public hearing on the notes. So it's just really a huge community project. We had the groundbreaking ceremony, but people asked me when we're gonna start breaking ground. I think they are now. And I said to my daughter, what is so confusing about that? And she's wondering when a wall is gonna come up. And that means once she sees a wall up, that we have broken ground and we're making progress. So things are moving along with construction and everything. I won't get into that. The major focus of us right now is our fundraising campaign, which a lot of people are helping with and participating in, and we continue to reach out to all of our community members for additional monies that we'll need for the first 5 years, help supplement what the school is able to pay, and we are well on our way. And I'm so excited. So I guess that's kind of it from our camp. We're just continuing to work in on fundraising, and Bid Pack 2 is coming in. That one's a little more negotiable, so we're looking for in-kind donations and really trying to keep a good handle on all of our costs. We're coming in a little bit under budget so far, so that's all good news. I don't know if anyone has questions about our project or anything.
Does anybody have any questions for Christine? I think we've been waiting for this for a long time, and so it's pretty exciting. As I've said a number of times, it's a game changer for us in Cross Lake. And Mike will go through our resolution that we will be putting forth later on in the, setting up the dates for the public hearing. So,
Perfect.
thank you so much,
Thanks a lot.
Christine.
Thank you for your participation and all of your help, too.
Yep.
Thank you.
So you can go to lakefoundation.org, and on there you will find many ways to be supportive of the school. Please do so.
Point of interest, buildtheschool.org.
Oh, buildtheschool.org. Thank you, Mike. Okay, next we have Bill Monroe, and he will give us an update from the Cross Lakers.
I have more good news to share, and I'm going to ask you for some action at the end. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Bill Monroe. I live at 37313 County Road 66 in Cross Lake, and I'm representing the Cross Lakers as a member of their communications work group. I was drawn to the Cross Lakers last summer as a new resident here. I started attending the town meetings because I wanted to learn more about Cross Lake. I was impressed with the grassroots process they had to learn about the city. I was impressed with the huge turnouts. I was impressed with the principles of the organization. The principles of the Cross Lakers are to enhance the unique ecology of Cross Lake, to create vibrant places that connect people to nature, to establish a better balance of facilities for driving, biking, boating, and walking, to provide a diverse balance of housing, business, and public amenities, and to celebrate and preserve Cross Lakes heritage. I mean, who can take issue with those principles? Later, I learned that the organization is absolutely apolitical. They don't lean left, they don't lean right. They just lean towards what's best for Cross Lake. And so I got involved. Everything that the group has accomplished has been done by volunteers with no paid staff. And they've accomplished much more than what most people realize, and that's why I'm here tonight. On Friday afternoon, October 27th, at 1:30 in the afternoon, representatives from city, county, state, and federal government will meet with members of the Cross Lakers and with members of the Minnesota design team at the Cross Lake Lutheran Church. And the purpose of that meeting is twofold. First, we want to bring you up to speed on some key projects that we've been working on and to get your input and your opinion on all of them. And second, we wanted to have a discussion with government on how groups like the Cross Lakers can work together with government to make Cross Lake an even stronger community. Over my career in the newspaper world, which I had 30 or 40 years of experience, I had the opportunity to work closely with government officials at all levels. And a common frustration I heard over those years was citizen apathy when it comes to working with government to get things done. People are quick to complain, but slow to get involved to help. Well, consider what the Cross Lakers have done. They funded a walkability study to find ways to make our streets, our trails, and our sidewalks safer and more inviting. They've initiated a feasibility study by the University of Minnesota to see if locating a National Loon Center here makes sense. Now, if that would happen, it would be a major first step toward evening out our roller coaster seasonal economy that our business community faces, while making Cross Lake an even more compelling tourist attraction in the summer. Cross Lakers have advocated for good public policy, like building a first-class charter school at no cost to local taxpayers, while providing market-rate workforce housing that's been needed here for a long time. We, serve sort of like an unpaid focus group to identify projects that are supported by the taxpayers and then try to find ways to make them a reality at the lowest possible cost. Most Cross Lakers have full-time jobs, and they generously volunteer their time to serve because they love this town. We hope you will find ways hope you will find it in your heart to make a few hours of your time available to us on the 27th to help us bring you up to date on what we're doing and to get your opinion. In fact, I've been asked to ask you if you would please take out your calendars right now and look at the 27th at 1:30 in the afternoon and see if you can make that time available. And if it's necessary, to put a notice in the paper to make sure it's a legal meeting, to have everybody there at one time, that be done. And also to invite you, Mike, and anyone else we'll be sending letters too, but we want all of the decision makers from the leadership of this body to be there. This is a very important meeting. There'll be people there from the county, from the state, and from the federal government as well. We want to talk about how we work with government to work together toward this end.
Is that open to the public, Bill? Is the public also invited?
Absolutely. It's an open meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where is it at?
Lutheran Church, Cross Lake Lutheran Church, 1:30. We hope you're all there. And if you have any questions, I'd like to try to answer them now. If not, I hope you're there.
So does anybody have any questions for Bill?
If this whole body goes there, it's not going to be any motions or any
No, no,
official,
no,
nothing, just
no,
for information.
No. The Minnesota design team has worked with communities around the country, around the state, rather, on projects similar to the ones that we're proposing and that we're looking at. And they're going to show all of us what other communities who have done similar things have done and how they did it and what the impact was on cities similar to us. And I think that'd be very interesting for you guys to see how it impacted those cities and how they dealt with them and the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Look forward to it, Bill.
Under critical issues, number 4, Tom Watson to give us an update on the pipeline meeting. Brad Person, can you help him get that turned on? Or
Ted's coming
Ted's
up.
coming up.
He's probably better equipped for that.
Good evening.
Name and
Mayor
address?
Norgard and council members.
Name and address?
Name and address. Tom Watson, 39195 Swanberg Court, Pine River, Minnesota. Closer across lake than Pine River, but for the record, I'm president of the Whitefish Area Property Owners Association. I'm here in that capacity. I could equally give you these comments as a citizen as well. Jane and I have been part of a family that's been here for, her family has been here a lot longer. They brought me up here 51 years ago, and I've been here ever since, and enjoyed it a lot. What I want to share with you a little bit in about 5 minutes, as I told the mayor this afternoon, there's a hearing to be that is scheduled for October 25th. 2 hearings, actually, at the Community Center in Cross Lake, conducted by the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission and presided over by an administrative law judge by the name of Ann O'Reilly. This is part of this Enbridge project of locating crude oil pipelines, or relocating crude oil pipelines, if you will, from Alberta, basically to Superior, Wisconsin, and on to points east and south, east meaning Sarnia, Ontario, and places in that direction, or south to Joliet, Illinois, and subsequently south to the Gulf. The hearing here on the 25th is one of 9 sites in Minnesota. They've had 2 already. They had one in St. Paul last week, and the initial one was where? Thief River Falls. And then this week, tomorrow they're in Grand Rapids, and on Wednesday they're in Bemidji. And then they've got a couple of sites, don't ask me where, Hinckley and, oh, I know, Hinckley and McGregor at the East Lake Community Center on the tribal property. And then they come here and do St. Cloud, and that wraps up those hearings. Now, what is the point of that? And that's what I want to go through with you a little bit. Because over the last 3 years, what got me interested in what I brought to my board and I think raised our attention, and it didn't get a lot of attention, but it was a little piece of news in the Brainerd Dispatch. The project manager for Enbridge, his name is Paul Eberth, and he's officed in Duluth. And he had given a report that afternoon in December of 2014 to the Brainerd Chamber of Commerce about this project. And at that time, that was Sandpiper. And Sandpiper has since been withdrawn. That was a pipeline to transport Bakken oil. That's where the Dakota Access piece and all the controversy last year replaced that particular line. Line 3 came along, and the report at the time, Mr. Eberth reported on some work Bar Engineering was doing in locating sites for Sandpiper, which is the same corridor they're proposing for Line 3. And among the many things he said was Bar Engineering had done their civil engineering and siting work. Incidentally, this is about a 750-foot corridor they would build through this particular area. You would know it as where the high-voltage power lines are if you go north of Highway 1 about 5 miles running east and west. He said that everything would go fine. There wouldn't be any risks to the area. They would use their latest technology, except, he said, in the event of an oil spill, there would be 3 lakes that might be at risk of receiving oil product via a connected waterway. And he said there's only 3. Norway Lake, Whitefish Lake, and Roosevelt Lake. I said, good God, that's 50% of the water in northern Crow Wing County and of the Pine River watershed. We had met with them in September of 2014, 3 months earlier. They never said a word about it. And Mr. Wuolo, W-U-O-L-O, was their chief engineer, still is, from Barr. We were with them all afternoon. They never said a word to any of us about that. So what I wanted to share with you are basically some of the key dates and things that are happening currently. What are very quickly, some of the decision criteria? Talk about the public hearing in Cross Lake, in which residents who care about this particular matter, whether you're for or against, would attend and speak. They have two decisions to make. One's called a certificate of need, the other is a routing permit. At the very moment where we are in this particular process is we're in the middle of the public hearing piece, as I mentioned, with Cross Lake on the 25th. The environmental impact statement, which you probably, if some of you have been familiar with that, is a very detailed engineered document. The one in this particular case is only 3,000 pages with text and appendices. If you're interested and get bored with your novel or whatever you're reading, I'd be happy to forward that document to you. Public comment period is another period in time, November 22nd, in which members of the public can submit things in writing. So resolutions that City Council might make, or documents that individuals, public organizations could submit would be due at 4:30 on November 22nd to the Public Utilities Commission. Their plan is then to determine the adequacy of the CIS in December, and they would proceed through the public hearings and matters in front of the Public Utilities Commission and make a decision on the certificate of need first, followed by a decision then on the route permit. They're going to hold both hearings concurrently. I mean, they're handling both permits concurrently. But the fact of the matter is they have to make a decision on certificate of need first. If they approve it, then they proceed to a routing permit. If they deny the certificate of need, there's no need for a route permit. The matter in front of them basically has to comply with what's called the Minnesota Environmental Policy Act, which essentially says if there's anything that is going to have some significant impact on the environment, then you have to complete an environmental impact statement. I might say that the Sandpiper matter wound up in the Court of Appeals, and Judge Klaphocky, who used to be a district judge in St. Cloud, serving on the Court of Appeals, rendered an opinion, basically said something this dramatic does in fact warrant the completion of an environmental impact statement. The two decisions, as I mentioned, that are before them, one is a certificate of need, and the emphasis is a need. They have to demonstrate need. I want to talk about that very quickly, followed by then the routing permit. The matter here, we're going to try to have a couple of articles in the local papers between the Echo and Northland Press over the next couple of weeks just describing this hearing. Judge Ann O'Reilly has been conducting all of these Enbridge hearings for the last couple of years. Public testimony, this is where people can come and they basically put their name in a container and they draw them out randomly. And you'll get usually somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes to state your case. What they're looking for now are people's opinions about matters for and against this particular decision. In other words, all of the adequacy tests of an EIW have already been completed. Comments were submitted on October 22nd. We did that, indicating to them a matter of interest, I would hope, to the City Council because of priorities around water quality and all the matters that Bill just even spoke about. There is not a section in a 5,000 page or 3,000 page document that describes current natural resources conditions along 35 miles of this pipeline that would cover the northern boundary of the Pine River watershed. All would be within 4 to 5 miles if there is a spill of either the north or west branch of the Pine River, or Daggett Brook, or Willow Creek, or Thompson Creek, or anything to the north of Highway 1, which would exactly be how we would have this particular product introduced into the Whitefish chain. Certificate of need, I'm just giving you the whole document if some of you are interested. The yellow, not yellow, but document that was attached to your packet, if you'd like some more of those. This is that document. I had copies in there of this particular information, and what I basically just want to say is that the critical thing here on a certificate of need is, one, they have to demonstrate that there is a negative impact if a certificate of need were denied. In other words, it's just the reverse of what you might think. In other words, the approval is dependent on satisfying the fact that there is no negative impact. And the negative impact has to be an impact on citizens of Minnesota and citizens of the neighboring states. And I want to comment on that very quickly. They also want you to take a look at alternatives. There have been 5 alternatives presented. And they want to know that there are no environmental impacts to that particular matter. One more slide. Certificate of need. Because I'm interested in just validating things that have been said to date, what I've discovered is there's been a lot of sales puffery going on in this application. Current design capacity for Enbridge coming through Minnesota is 3.2 million barrels of oil a day. That some of it is a line coming from Bakken, some of it is coming from Western Canada. Line 3 currently is operating at 50% of its current design capacity because of its age, so it's at about 2.8 million. There's about 300,000 currently waiting for the Alberta Clipper to be approved by the President. That's another 370,000. So they're currently operating today at about 2.4 million. Mincan, which is the line that goes from Clearbrook through Park Rapids onto the Twin Cities and feeds Pine Bend in St. Paul Park, is running at 465,000 barrels a day. Superior, Wisconsin has a small refinery owned by Enbridge, used to be Murphy Oil, that's 50,000 barrels a day. Combined, this market is served by about 15% of the current capacity Enbridge is pumping through these lines. Bottom line, on September 9th, Department of Commerce economists advising them, analyzing the need presented by Enbridge, indicated that at this point there is more than ample capacity to serve people in Minnesota. There's more than ample capacity to serve people in the immediate neighboring states. And the truth of the matter is about 85% of 3.2 million barrel capacity would pass through Minnesota, not stop at any refinery serving Minnesota, and move on to Sarnia, Ontario, move on to Joliet, Illinois, and move on to points to be exported. So what you've seen in ads and TV and newspapers lately is filling stations are going out of business if this doesn't get approved, and farmers will move all their cattle, I think, to Iowa or somewhere. The truth of the matter is Minnesota is now got plenty of capacity serving our needs, and they're not operating at full capacity today. Very last piece is just a routing permit. I'm going to circulate some of these as well. This was a document that was in your packet, but this just shows you very quickly where the proposed pipeline would go through the Pine River watershed. If you go north toward Bacchus from Pine River and where the power line comes through, 371, and continued that power line literally up here to the junction of the old grade north of Highway 1, literally that's that corridor. So we'd be about 4 miles as the crow flies on the north branch of the Pine River if there was a spill, which would go right into the fish hatchery and the fish area that the DNR does in stripping fish in the spring. There's nothing in here about the impact on water quality in this area. There's nothing in their documents about the fact there's a $300 million annual expenditure with travel, tourism, about 10,000 people employed by travel, tourism, second homeowners, and seasonal property owners in this particular area. So this is significant to us. That's my remarks.
Good. Thank you, Tom. Does anyone have any questions for Tom at this point? It's a lot of information, and if you want to know more about it, I highly encourage you to attend the October 25th meeting at the Cross Lake Community School. There are 2 times, 1 to 4 and 6 to 9.
1 to 4, 6 to 9.
6 to 9, okay,
Are there people from Enbridge going to be there
Oh,
for that
yeah.
meeting? Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
If you haven't had the opportunity to be at one of these hearings, it's pretty, quite lively, let's put it like
Let's say
that.
that John Henke, when I asked about the location of this hearing, incidentally, as I said, this hearing wasn't to be in Cross Lake. It was to be in Brainerd or in Walker. I just happened to be at a hearing conducted by Judge O'Reilly confirming 9 locations. And I simply asked, is it possible to hold a hearing along 130 miles of a corridor that's never had a pipeline? In other words, Park Rapids to Carlton. She said, where would that be? I said, Cross Lake. She said, do they have any facilities large enough to house 150 people? I said, not only that, I'll take you for a ride on the lake so you can see it, because it sounds like you've never been here before. So with Mr. Henke's help, he told me that they had served a funeral with a couple, 300 people not too many months before. So this is going to be set up in the gym, and more than enough space. I've been through a number of these. There's a couple hundred people will be in attendance, and they will come from all interested groups.
Any other questions?
I was wondering, what have other cities commented about in the region here? Anything?
We haven't seen anything. There's an EDOC system that the Public Utilities maintains. The latest documents were posted this morning, and the only one I've seen in this area was from Aiken County. County Board passed a resolution. The others that have been filed to date are up in the Thief River Falls, that Western Highway 2 area, some townships and some cities. I can get you copies of those if you're interested. I think you'll see more of it as some of these hearings start coming into the central part of the state. But most of those are supportive because of 2 things, Dave. One is what's important to them, obviously, employment, and they have a number of people residing in Thief River Falls, et cetera, Crookston, et cetera, that are employed by Enbridge or subcontractors. That makes sense. The second one, which is a little misnomer, is they view this, particularly a representative that represents the eastern part of this area. He sees this as a $3 million game in gaining property tax revenue from Enbridge, and therefore his taxpayers in Aiken County will have a lesser tax bill. That's not how equity funding works in Minnesota. And number 2, Enbridge is in the tax court at the moment for the 3rd time in 10 years, challenging 5 years of assessed values and taxes for the period, I believe it's 2008 or 9 through 2013-14. They've won the previous times. If they win this particular time, there's 2 counties up in the northwest, I think it's Red Lake County and one other. They would have a refund for 5 years of taxes to Enbridge that would exceed their annual budget.
And a lot of this line's going to run through swampland, right?
Pretty much.
The watershed.
Yeah, there's some upland in this area, but it's, some of the alternates they've been looking at would be a line through southern Minnesota where water is already polluted and not recoverable, and it's all farmland and it's tillable soil once construction's over.
And the direction of water that runs in the state of Minnesota is from up north our way?
Well, you can see the arrows on this particular document. The west and north branches of Pine River are pretty substantial. I would encourage you, after the recent rains, go and take a look at Willow Creek where it dumps into the upper Whitefish. Take a look at the Pine River. It's not particularly clean, tells you a little bit where it's coming from.
And they've been running a lot of radio ads lately, and
Oh, yeah.
I think the one that I remember was one that used the word minimizing. They've added a lot of safety things to minimize the impact to the environment.
Well, I think there's a lot to learn, and so those are great questions, Dave, and thank you so much. Now, I know that you are on your way to Ideal
Yeah?
to talk to them about potentially a resolution in support.
Correct.
And so why don't you give me a call at home after that meeting and after the Vikings game?
After the Viking game?
Yeah.
We can't talk about that. Henke won't like either one of us.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. I don't think we have to remind anybody here that water quality is our number one priority here, because the Whitefish chain is the placemaker that keeps us all functioning in this city. Okay, under Mayor's report, as you know, we have been working very hard on updating our city comprehensive plan. And in order for the council to have a little bit longer and in-depth look at it, I would like to set a special meeting before the November council meeting. That date would be November 13th at 6 p.m. And how does that sound for council members here? Does that work for you? And I don't think we need a motion on that. So that will be in the minutes, that the council will have their first chance to take a really good look at a draft of the updated comp plan.
6
Pub-
p.m., Pat? I'm sorry,
6
Patty.
p.m., yeah, 6 p.m., November 13th. Thank you. Public forum, no action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. So do we have any audience tonight? Anybody in the audience who has anything they'd like to report back or give us an update on, or share a concern or a suggestion or a comment? If not, we will move on to the city administrator's report.
Okay, thank you. Included in your packet as item F1 is a resolution calling for a public hearing on the issuance of Educational Facility Revenue Notes Series 2017 and authorizing the publication of a notice of hearing. And what this is, remember last month we talked about Briggs & Morgan had put together the financing package for the Lake Foundation for the charter school. And this is one additional step, not additional, but another step towards that goal. So this is the resolution for the public hearing for the issuance of the conduit debt that the city has in concept agreed to help them with. And so what I need from this board is a resolution to that effect.
Okay.
And then the last thing on this is it Brad, if I could have Brad Person put up the schedule there, so for the public. It's the last page of that F1. It's some good information on the timeline for that to happen, but
Yep.
for this, we need the resolution to do as stated in F1.
So I'd like a motion from the floor for a resolution calling for a public hearing on the issuance of educational facility revenue notes.
So moved.
Dave Schrupp first.
Second.
Gary Heacock second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. The second item I have is, I think everyone's aware now, we're building a bridge. There's a lot of activity going out over by Dream Island. So one of the things we need to do is we need to execute the local bridge replacement program grant agreement for Dream Island. And once we do that, you'll see on the consent calendar, we've got a bill that we need to pay. We'll pay that bill, and then we'll file for reimbursement under that grant program. So if I could have a motion approving that local bridge replacement grant program grant agreement.
Okay, is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Gary Heacock's first, and is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any more questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. The third item I'd like to discuss with you is, we've been talking all summer now about the sewer project, the upgrades and the improvements made to the sewer plant, and the proposed funding program for that was to use $1 million of bonding money, new money, and pay $1.5 million out of the proceeds of the sale of the phone company. So I don't need a motion on this tonight, but it is October, and just want to remind you that if it's the consensus of this council to still go forward with issuing those bonds for the project, I
How
can
much
bring
public comment have you got from that, Mike?
none.
None? And it's been published quite a bit. I mean, people should know.
Well, we haven't published anything on the financing package.
No, but using the phone company money.
We've had, don't use any of it to use all of it, and everywhere in between. But this council passed a motion to use $1.5 million of existing funds, i.e. money from the proceeds of the phone company sale, and then issue new debt over 10 years for the remainder in the amount of roughly $1 million.
It's actually $1.6 million, right? Wasn't that going to drop the levy a little bit or something if we added that? Wasn't
I
that the
think
last
that,
date?
wasn't that under further discussion at the
We were
October
going to look that
23rd
up
meeting?
to see if
Yeah,
we
that-
can get down to the 5% level.
Yep, but that's a different issue regarding, we were looking at them both ways. We already agreed to spend a little more on that side. So with your permission, I'll go ahead and pull that together for our November meeting, so you can see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you. And the last item I have in your packet for review, for your review and comment, is now that we've decided what to do with some of that phone company money, it's probably a prudent thing to do to, from the city's perspective, is to put an investment policy in place. So when staff identify funds that aren't needed for current day-to-day operations, we have some guidance as to what to do with them. Put some parameters around that and take some of the debate on what to do with it out of the picture, if you like. So that's for information only, and we do have a meeting coming up on the 23rd for the budget. So this is modeled after a policy written by Ehlers and Associates that was posted on the league's website. And if anyone's interested and wants some really thrilling reading, we can go through that, but not tonight. So take a look at that, and if you have comments, suggestions, would like to see some changes, go ahead and do that. So that's for your information, okay?
And if you're interested, this is on our on our website, so you can gather any information there that you wish.
It's posted on the website under this council packet, and tried to make it as simple as I could. Okay? That's all I have, unless
Good.
anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, moving on to commission reports, planning and zoning. Mr. Pence.
Good evening, everybody. There's nothing from the Planning and Zoning Commission to report on, but Shar asked me to just go over a letter the county sent out about the potential sale of a piece of tax forfeited land. And so I'll just take a couple minutes just to kind of go over that process, because this is not the last time you'll get a letter like this. So I just wanted you to know kind of how that happens and what we're asking it to do, and what might be some other things, types of letters that you'll get from the county about this type of thing in the future. So when a property goes tax forfeit, the county has the opportunity to classify it two ways. One is conservation or non-conservation. If it goes conservation, that means it's going to stay part of the county's overall tax forfeited holdings, something that we're not going to sell. And if the county board classifies it as non-conforming, then we have the opportunity to sell that. And to sell property, there's a couple different ways to do it. One is that if it's a non-conforming lot that doesn't meet the standards of a standalone lot that could be sold and built on, and that you're allowed to do a direct sale to adjoining property owners with that. If the lot is big enough that it would meet today's standards as far as lot size and that, then it has to go and be sold at an auction. And so the county typically has 2 auctions a year that are trying to sell tax forfeited land. And to sell that land, the first thing we have to do is get permission from the DNR. So because all the land that we're selling is held in trust. And so the state actually holds the title to the property, and the county holds it in trust and manages it on their behalf. So we have to ask the DNR first, can we sell the land? The second one then goes out to the local city or township and asking authority from the city to sell, or if we can sell that property. And basically, the DNR has unlimited time. They can take 2 years to make a decision if they want to. You guys have 60 days. And if you don't make a response or respond back to the county during that 60-day time period, then after 60 days expires, then we have the ability to sell that property. And so what you have before you tonight is there's a piece of property, and I'll put it up on the map here. It's in your packet. It's down Anchor Point Road. piece of property right down here where that little yellow is. It's that red strip is what's in question. I'll actually show you the survey, make it easier for you to see. So the area that's in red here, this strip here, so this would be White Bishop here, and down here, across Lake, part of the chain. And what happened was during part of our field inspections, we found that there was a cabin and a deck that was encroaching onto that strip of property. And it was a tax forfeited parcel, and we've contacted the people who own the cabin. They're interested in making the purchase. We just have to come to the city and ask for that, for your authority, permission to be able to sell that. And so that's what we're here for tonight. And so in subsequent meetings, the county will continue to send these letters out if we're going to try to put something up on the auction or if it's a direct sale. And that's not something that it's not a planning and zoning function. It's not something that John or anybody like that's going to be involved in. That's a different aspect of our department for our land asset management that we handle. And so you'll be seeing these as they come down, and if you do nothing, great. 2 months after that, then the county can just go ahead and sell the property, or if you want to send a letter down. If you object to selling the property, what that does is it gives you basically a 6-month window to purchase the property. There are some times where a city or a township might say, well, that's really a key piece of property. We need that for infrastructure for a road, or sometimes when plats are done, they would put a plat in where a stormwater pond was, and the city will say, well, we don't want to sell that because we think, and so then the city will have the opportunity to purchase that from the county. And then if the city chooses to not purchase it during that 6-month window, the county then would have the opportunity to hold a public hearing and go before the county board, and then the county board makes the ultimate decision at that time if it wants to sell or not. So what we're asking tonight is to be able to have the authority to sell this lot. It's about 35 feet of frontage, about 1/4 of an acre of land. It's going to be sold for the estimated market value on that land, right around $70,000.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions for Chris?
But it's on each case, then we would look at each one, not... yeah.
Yep, individual, yep, this is just this certain situation, and when the next opportunity to sell land comes up, we'll send a letter to you guys and inquiring and seeing if
Is
you
there
want
any
to.
reason the city would have any interest in that
Nope.
parcel?
Nope, not unless you wanted to buy a piece of property with half a cabin on it. I don't think that's a good option for anybody. I think this needs to go back into private ownership. It was meant to be in private ownership, and there was some confusion between, this piece of property was actually platted or put in there back in the 70s so that a piece of property in the backside could get access through, and the gentleman passed away, stopped paying taxes on it. There was some miscommunication over where that corner right here was where that marker was, and they accidentally built across the property. And so it was a mistake, and everybody's agreed to rectify it by purchasing the property, so.
So I'd make a motion, we approve the sale. or
Okay.
approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, first by Dave Nevins, second by Dave Shep. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried.
We'd appreciate at the county level if you just send a letter so we could put that in the file saying that. yeah,
Okay.
That'd be wonderful, so.
That sounds great.
As far as the commission report, that's all I have, but just on a quick note, I think you guys all got the email that Mike sent out last week. I have resigned from my position with the county, and thus have resigned from my position working with you guys here in Cross Lake. So my final date with the county will be on November 3rd. This will be my last meeting with you guys. I won't be back up here again for a meeting since you guys meet after that date.
And where are you moving to?
I'm going to be going to work for the state of Minnesota with the Board of Water and Soil Resources. So I'll be in the Brainerd office, so I'll be around. I won't be leaving the area. And you're in quite capable hands with John and Cheryl.
Yes.
They're still going to have all the resources at the county. I think it's still been a good working relationship, and I would hope and encourage the city to continue it. I've been working with the city since about this time of year, back in 2012, so it's been 5 years. It's kind of hard to believe that time goes by just that quick, but I appreciate working with you guys. I think you've done some really good work with developing your ordinances and processes, and we appreciate being part of that team, and I hope that as we go forward, that relationship will continue. So,
Thank
Chris,
you.
I
Thank
want to
Thank you so much,
congratulate you, and I
Chris.
want to thank you.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
you
you.
much.
Okay. Moving on to Park Rec and Library.
Good evening.
Evening, John.
Hello, John.
My wife's texting me scores. You want to know?
Yeah, no.
No?
You ruined it for me last time, man. No scores. All right, tomorrow, we got an interesting event at the community center. We have the Pequot Lakes is having a big cross-country meet there. We've got teams from all over coming to run on the Nordic Ridge trails, and more people are getting to hear about what our trail system's all about, and working with Chris and the county staff on some wonderful new maps that we have on display at the community center, and the county's going to be paying for these maps, so we'll look forward to that. We're finalizing those here in the next few weeks, and we'll have them hopefully ready by this winter with some new displays at the community center site. So working with the county's been great, and we're looking forward to that meet tomorrow and having a bunch of kids and parents and grandparents come and watch the Pequot Lake School run here in Cross Lake. We don't get the chance to have our kids that go to school over there have sporting activities very often. We host a few tennis meets too, but this is probably our biggest event that we hold through the school district. So that event starts at 3 o'clock tomorrow, so come out and see the athletes compete at the Cross Lake Park. Annual Halloween party is coming up at the end of the month, October 28th. It'll be from 12 to 2. The party's designed for kids up to 10 years of age, and the local Lions Club is a big supporter of this event, along with the PAL Foundation. And we have lots of youth groups that come and help us put on the games for the kids, and just an all-around good time and good for the community here. So that'll be Saturday, October 28th from 12 to 2. Starting a new Zumba class at the community center on Tuesday, October 17th. That'll be held from 5:30 to 6:30. Denise Thompson will be the instructor. Day passes or a 10-pass punch card are available, so you can come check out that new class. Got a concert at the community center on Thursday, October 17th. The Everett Smithson Band will be performing, and that event's put on by the Legacy Program. That is designed to preserve Minnesota arts and cultural heritage. And there's also the Minnesota Blues Society is putting on, after the concert, that they're going to do some free harmonica lessons. So if you've always wanted to learn how to play a harmonica, you can do it on the 17th, so you can check that out. Fall basketball is starting. Practice will be held Tuesdays from 3:30 to 4:45, and Thursdays from 6 to 7 at the community center. So we'll have registrations available for that tomorrow. Charge will be $30 for that. Scrimmages will be held on Saturday mornings over in Pequot Lakes. So we're kind of working with the Pequot Lakes program to make that available to our local kids here in Cross Lake. New to Medicare class, we had offered a class about a month ago, and we didn't have anyone sign up for the class, but the day of the class, a bunch of people showed up and they didn't know they had to register beforehand, so pre-registration is required. The class will take place on Friday, September 8th from 9 to noon, and like I said, make sure you register, and we've got the phone number available here, 800-333-2433, and I think they're running possibly an ad in the paper
Hey,
too. so-
John, just a second. September 8th?
Oh, that's a typo, sorry.
Okay, what is it, October?
Should be,
No, what is it?
I gotta
November?
check on that date, that doesn't make any sense at all. I will check on that, Patty.
Okay.
I am sorry. I'll
It's
get
okay.
it to Bill, because I know it's gonna go in the paper. And most people probably won't write the
Yeah.
phone number down, they're watching the Vikings game, so they're not probably watching our report tonight. But yes, that is the wrong date, I apologize for that.
That's okay.
It is on a Friday, and it is from 9 to noon, but it's not September 8th, obviously. Sorry. Book sale report. We had the 5th book sale of the year. It took place last Friday. We brought in about $340 from the sale, and so we'd like to thank all the people who donated books and volunteered to work. We had that from 12 to 4, so almost $100 an hour that they brought in for the sale hours, so that's pretty good. Next item, community center sound system. Councilman Nevin asked about this earlier, and I had the chance to meet with David and show him our archaic system for the gymnasium that we have. Many of you know that Donna Kiefer is our aerobics instructor, and by the way, Donna's got a birthday this week, so if any of you know Donna, make sure you wish her a happy birthday. She'll probably kill me for telling people that, but we won't say anything about how old Donna is going to be. She's the youngest senior citizen that we have in Cross Lake, I know that for sure. She teaches a couple classes a day at the community center, and she's been working since, I think, 1997 at the community center doing basically senior aerobics. And in that entire time, she's been operating with a boombox and a sound system that hasn't worked.
I think it's the same boom box too, isn't it?
It's just, yeah, it's archaic. Same with, we're having some problems in our meeting rooms. But a long story short, people have a hard time hearing Donna in the class, and the people that are attending her class aren't getting younger, and their hearing isn't getting better. And so we looked at making some improvements, and we got a $500 donation from one of the participants that was having a real hard time hearing and supported getting a new sound system. So we started working with a couple companies to get some quotes. We worked with Digital Horizons and also Tom's TV out of Brainerd. And Tom's, I think, did the sound system in this room. And I think we redid that sound system 4 or 5 times over the years. We spent an awful lot of money getting that sound system to where it was working great now today. But we have a proposal tonight. Basically what we'd like to do is we'd like to fix and improve the sound system in the gymnasium. We can reuse the speaker that's in here. And so earlier when Dave asked about that $3,900 charge that was in bills for approval, when they came out and tested that speaker, the speaker worked fine, but the amp that they had in their proposal wasn't large enough to work with that amp. They didn't have the specifics of that speaker until they came out and did their sound check, making sure the speaker was still going to work. So that proposal went up a little bit. There was a difference of about $2,000 between the proposals for the gymnasium, and Digital Horizons was the low quote for that. Very similar products. Anytime you don't have a sound engineer design a system for you, it's hard to get exactly apples to apples. But I think both companies did a nice job. I think both systems will work very well. We just like the $4,000 number a little bit better than the $6,000. We think the product that we're going to get from Digital Horizons is going to work.
Does that sound system have a microphone and going to be used for
Yes.
public events
Yes.
also?
And so, you know, when Donna does her classes, she'll have a microphone similar to what you're wearing tonight. It's designed for aerobics and active activities like that. There'll be one of those. There'll be a hardwire mic, and there'll be a portable mic, just like this one here, that you can take around and you know, to a crowd like we're going to be having there on the 25th. We'll be able to incorporate some of that for that meeting. But most importantly, it's for the classes that bring in the majority of our revenue for the community center is the aerobics classes that Donna teaches. And we really haven't put the investment into that sound system like we should have, and that's no one's fault but my own. But I think it's time to do it. And we're also, we have our sound system in the meeting rooms, and many of you have been at the candidate forums when we've had to hand around the lapel mic from person to person. Well, now our sound system is down to the fact that we're having meetings for AAA with 40 to 50 people, and their sound system is 2 stereo speakers that are 8 inches tall. We're better than that. People expect a certain quality of service, I think, when they come in the community center. And when we have these meetings and we have educational sessions, it's nice if you can actually hear what's being talked about, what's trying to be taught at the community center. So what we did was we combined the meeting room proposal and the gym proposal. We also got proposals for the meeting rooms, and Tom's TV and Digital Horizons, same 2 companies, both gave us proposals. Digital Horizons, again, was the low quote on those. And so we're recommending that we go with Digital Horizons. The total cost for the 2 meeting rooms minus the $500 donation that we have is just a little over $16,000. So the motion I have in front of you tonight to fix both of those sound systems is $16,783.01.
So how'd it go from 3,900 to 16,000?
We added the meeting rooms to that, Dave.
And that's that much more?
Yeah, yep. The meeting rooms were $12,543, and then you had $4,200 for the gymnasium, so that brings you to your total. Now, if you didn't want to choose to do the meeting rooms, you could just go ahead with the gymnasium, but to have these meetings down there, we've got money in the budget this year for that
It just
expense.
seems like a big swing in dollars. to
Well, it
do a
is. I mean, it's
smaller
two
room.
systems instead of one. And the system in the meeting rooms is a little bit more elaborate system. You have a recording device so we can broadcast the candidate forums, any kind of community meetings when we have the Cross Lakers down there using the facility. In fact, they wanted to have a meeting at the community center, and they chose to have that at the Lutheran Church because the original one they had at Manhattan Beach, and they had some problems with the sound there. So they asked about the community center. I said, well, our sound system isn't working right now in the meeting rooms either. So they ended up going to the Lutheran Church. So
So when would that sound system be installed?
the
What are
gymnasium will
dates
be
on it?
done before October 25th.
Okay,
The meeting rooms will be a little bit longer than that. So
Okay,
if
okay.
you approve this proposal tonight, they'd get everything ordered and get that in as soon as possible. So I think it's a very worthwhile project. The money is in the budget this year, and I would suggest that we go ahead and do that and get the sound up to what it should be at the community center.
I will put a motion on the floor that we use Digital Horizon and install the sound system in the gymnasium and in the community meeting rooms for the $16,785.01. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Dave. Any further discussion or questions for John? I'll just say that I've attended many, many meetings up at the community center over the years, and I'll tell you what, we have needed a really good sound system in there many, many, many years ago. So it's time that we kind of come into the 21st century and put a decent sound system in our community center. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Last item I'm not going to get into. We talked about Enbridge enough
Yep.
earlier, so it should be a lively meeting. Hopefully Eric will have his guys there and everything will go good. So, thank you.
Mr. Strand.
Good evening. It's beautiful out and we're talking snow. Snow policy. For the past few years, since I've been here, we've worked on past practices. So there was nothing really written on how we and when and where, and it was just past practices. Like everything else, we've got to get into the 21st century and put it down, so if anybody's got a question about it, it's in writing. It's not, well, this is what he thinks or she thinks. It's in writing. So at this time, we'd like to put before you the snow plowing policy. It's how, what, where, and when. It helps Shar, it helps Mike in just managing day-to-day. People have questions, well, this is what they refer to. That's the guidance from my department. So with that, I guess I would like the motion from the council to move it forward.
Do we have a motion on the floor to accept the City of Cross Lake snow plowing policy?
So moved.
Dave Schrupp first, a second on that?
I'll second it.
Dave Nevin second. Any other further discussion or comments?
We still have to fix mailboxes, so, huh?
If we hit the mailbox, yes. You know, if we've caused damage with the mailbox. Now, if it's the snow coming off of the plow, that I can't control. You know, it gets hard and packed up over time.
How many mailboxes do you guys fix a year?
It varies in a season. I've done as little as 3, and I've done as many as 15, 20.
Yeah.
It depends on the snow. I mean, how hard it
Yeah.
is, how icy it is, all those different things, so. And as we do replace them now, we're trying to replace them with those steel swing-aways. A lot of what we get into is we find the post was rotted off. Oh, yeah, that was brand new. Well, yeah, brand new maybe 15 years ago. And they're rotted off, and it doesn't take much snow to tip them over anymore, so.
Are we ready to approve the motion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Just quickie, if you get a chance, come by the sewer plant. There's holes dug out there. They've started. They did run into higher groundwater because of all the rain. They're having to do a little dewatering, but it's all part of the process.
Good.
The bridge, they're tying steel on the rebar. They've already got the pilings driven and ready to go there. And the 2017 road project, striping and seeding was completed today, so there's just punch list stuff to work with Dave and the contractor, and things are progressing, so.
Perfect.
With that, I have nothing else unless somebody has something for me.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
And so, Shar, we can post the snow plowing policy on our website. So for our community, they can jump on the website and look at how we will get your roads plowed during the winter. Okay, anything from our city attorney?
No?
Nope. Public forum, the last one. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given a 3-minute time limit. Anybody from the audience? Is there any old business? Any new business? Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I will make that motion.
Second.
Yes.